Hey everyone, Dan here. We are after market close on Monday, August 2nd. We're going to take a look at Palantir. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not intended to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and come to your own conclusions based on that. Alright, so every Monday we cover Palantir, and here we are again. Now, volume today, just under 21 million versus an average 3-month volume of over 50 million. And one thing that we had mentioned in last week's video was really the need for the volume to start bumping up on Palantir if it was really going to be able to reach the higher highs that we had plotted in that video as potential upside price targets. Obviously, that has not happened yet. Now, the question that I have at the moment is, can this volume pick up as we approach earnings? That would be sort of an obvious place to look for interest to pop into any given stock, but especially one that used to have so much fervor around it, Palantir, and it's sort of lost that vigor since, say, mostly around here, February, March. Yeah, I guess even some of April, but generally a pretty solid die down, especially after this run up to 27. That even then sort of like, I don't want to say it was the nail in the coffin because I don't think that this is like the death march for Palantir, but that just continued the steady downtrend. It was a brief pickup there, and then it just came back down even lower than we had seen previously. So, a couple of things that I'm looking for on the daily chart, which is what this is. One is this continued purple bounce zone. Now this zone stretches about 21.25 down to high 20s. And to me, that's a really strong zone. That's most recent support zone here, previous support here. Now it did fall through it there, but it only lost that zone for about 2 weeks or so, which I know isn't nothing, but in the vast scheme of things, being that this encompasses a support there from November of 2020 to recent day, a couple of weeks out of it is nothing. And so I'm going to continue to look for it there. I have continued to add to my Palantir position, which is just a long shares position, so it's nothing fancy, at dips into that purple zone. Now, obviously, here I was questioning whether or not that was a mistake, but obviously we clawed back quite a bit and made it a nice run up. Now, what I'm looking for on the daily here is if we could get some extension levels going. Obviously, we're struggling at the moment, but if we look, well, let's first look at the retracement. From the 1706, let me get rid of this volume. Oh no, that's just on the chart. Okay. From the 1706 area down here at our low to the highs right around here, we're retracing right now down right into that 618 level, which is surrounded by that purple bounce zone, which again indicates an area of previous strong demand. There's a lot of demand for Palantir at that price point. So to me, it makes sense that it's able to at least consolidate along this level. I would like to see it make another run up. And I do think that if these levels continue to hold, what we could look for is an extension in the next run, which could again certainly be sort of spurred on by the upcoming earnings. So the extent to which this is the first impulsive move, this is the first retracement down here to about the 618 level. And now if we were to look at extension levels, that still puts my mind up into that $30 plus range. That $30.99 is where that would land us at the moment. And so that's what I'm looking for most sort of, I guess, most hopefully in the potential run up to earnings, or even a run after earnings. And so if we were able to stick it there, that would obviously be fantastic. Now, the likelihood that it would have some pullback and retracement off of that, of course, is very strong, but that's sort of going off of the theory or the hypothesis that all of these large swings whether they're up or down, are generally strong overreactions, again, either to the bullish or the bearish side. And that's when you generally see things kind of taper off, take a breath, sort of reevaluate, consolidate. It's a common term that you'll hear, and then prepare for the next move. And sometimes that is just a bounce back if it was an unnecessarily harsh sell-off, or a little bit of a pullback if it was a very exuberant bullish run that maybe got a bit out of hand. But these would be the extension levels that I would really look at if we are able to get that strong bullish momentum going. And obviously there's several stops along the way where if you wanted to, you could trim and take profit off the table. This area here, I'll put this on the daily as a red zone, because to me, this zone right here, with all of this topping out, is potentially going to be a pretty tough one for it to overcome. So I'm going to put that there just because that area you see topping out here, you see previously topped out there, and then in between there was all of this crazy wave, several waves of price action. But even back here, if you extend that back through, if you see where my cursor is, there's topping out even way back here, and there's support zones there. So any of these zones that encompass previous support and current resistance or vice versa, to me are very, very strong zones. And if it did top out there again, just above that $27 range, or I guess maybe even toward the mid 27s, that would be the third time that it topped out and would potentially put the next bullish run, or the hope of a next bullish run, up toward that $30 range, for example, in a bit of peril. Might be too hyperbolic, but it would at least put it in danger of being significantly delayed, let's say that. So that's my most important one. So I would say, if I had a position that I was looking to trade shorter term and take some profit or trim or what have you, I would say maybe this 50% level makes sense, and then certainly that $27 level probably makes sense, just to, like I said, lock in some of the profits and not get caught if it bounces off of this red zone and pushes its way back down quite significantly. Now, on the indicator side of things, for our sort of longer term trends here, we do see the bearish momentum as of late has completely died down and is flattening out for the last about 5 trading days, started to consolidate. Now, the question is, there is a very slight bullish crossover here on the MACD that you can see, but it's nothing that's a strong indication that there's going to be a big bullish push up. A couple of things would help with that. One would be if this volume would stop just kind of being in the crapper. And the other would be if we can get this MACD line to have a strong crossover from the signal or through the signal. I mean, all of these back here are pretty lackadaisical. Like here's a really strong one, obviously, right? That's a big, violent push up off of the signal line. So if something like that were to start presenting itself, that would indicate to me, okay, we really might have the strength necessary in this run to break through this red zone. If it's a pretty lackadaisical kind of crossover and it's just kind of coming up and kind of settling in and doing that sort of thing, I might really question whether or not it has the oomph to get over that red zone. Plus the volume, like I said, the volume is going to have to come in strong in order to get it to push over there. Now the RSI, it's coming up and approaching the midline. So to me, I really want to see what it does at the midline. Does it come up and bounce off? As we see the last few times it has tried to approach the midline, it's bounced off and that's driven it back down. Now that said, if we look at the RSI indicator similarly to how we would a candlestick or a chart pattern, we see a bunch of higher lows here. So this is indicating that here's an opportunity where some buying strength is coming in. But again, just like on the MACD, it's kind of wimpy buying strength that's coming in, and I think that's predominantly tied to the low volume that's coming into the stock overall. Now we're in a relatively bearish formation here. I mean, overall long-term bearish trend as the 200 is situated over the current price action, and it's bumping its head right now on the MA20. So again, to me, if it is going to get the lift needed, sort of like you see here, it came up and it sort of stuttered a couple of days around that 20 MA. Once it established over that, that's really when it carried itself up nicely. And then once it fell through, it really fell strongly. So I would be looking for that 20 to come in. If the price action can establish over that and allow it to help carry the price up, that will be obviously an additional strong boost that it could have. And especially as the 20 crosses over the 50, like we saw back here, the purple crossing above the yellow. If that could happen sooner than later, that would be great, because if it doesn't, what we're going to see sooner than later is the 50, which is yellow here, cross below the 200, which would then be yet another bearish indication. Now, if we zoom in on the 5-day, sort of check out what we might look for in the coming days. So if you're trading like shorter term options or shares, even just sort of getting in and out of positions more quickly, maybe like day trades or a few day swing trades, this is what I would be most interested in at the moment. And again, I'll turn this red because to me this is turning out to be the danger zone. So you see topping out here, and this topping out was slightly higher than this topping out, right? So you also have the beginnings. I kind of hesitate to say this because it's so new. It's just the second confirmation of a trend line, which that means it could always bust and never really develop. But this is the beginnings of a slight downtrend. So what I would really want to see is the next time it approaches this red box, if that's tomorrow or whatever, that it's able to come through, and even if it can't punch through the red box here, which that would be the most ideal, get support over this red box and carry on up to that $23 level. I would at least like to see wherever it approaches this white line in the red box, I would at least like to see it hop over that white line. And again, even if it gets stuck in the red box and comes down a little bit, the ability to break that white line and not get stuck in an overall lower high downtrend here, to me, would be the most important thing. So that's what I would be looking for. And then obviously this 22.88 that we saw here in the pre-market, very, very close to that $23 level. So I would still look to see what it's doing as it approaches that $23 level, if and when that comes, whether or not that's this week or not, who knows. Now, a couple of things. Obviously, earnings are coming up. So let's quickly just take a look. Now, I've often said or lamented or railed against the idea that analysts and reporters seem to really be against Palantir, right? You see here the analyst targets showing, yes, slightly higher, but just 3 sells, 5 holds, and 1 buy. So really an atrocious spread, to be honest. And so, to me, that says analysts, even though the consensus price target's a little bit higher per this chart on Ortex, this is not screaming we're very bullish about this stock, right? And then I have noticed that there's a couple of interesting things that have come out, and we won't look through all of these, but there's the COVID-19 play you never expected, and that's a little bit of a nice article about Palantir. And this one here should rise 57%. Now, we could go through this one a little bit. So this person is basically saying that Palantir will release its earnings for Q2 on August 12th before the market opens. If earnings follow what happened during Q1, expect to see the software company show powerful free cash flow results. Since the company reported Q1, blah, 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 stock has risen by 7.4% from 2021 to 2171 as of the end of July 30th. I believe that it is worth at least 57% more at $34. Right now, this is like a remarkably positive Palantir article. And I know a lot of these are clickbaity, but keep in mind that just because something is clickbaity, yes, that can very easily mean that it's questionable information at best, but it also means that a lot of people are interested in reading this article, hence it's clickbait, hence it gets a lot of clicks based on the article and or the title, right? So to me, this is still an interesting topic. So this is slightly over the 33.59 target that I put forth in my last article. And so, I mean, you can go through and read this, but it's really interesting. They make some solid cases here for people who have been or tend to be more bullish on Palantir, even at what a lot of analysts contend is this extended price target. And so it's interesting to see that some of those articles are coming out and what that might do overall in the marketplace, especially given the timing with earnings coming up. So we'll see. Next week in the video, since we'll get that one in on Monday the 9th, which would be before the earnings call, we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive into earnings and what I think folks, well, institutions and or retail might be looking for from that earnings call in order to kind of process it in a positive versus a negative way. And of course, then the inverse of that would be what could be said in that call that would be taken as negative instead of positive. All right, well, good luck this trading week. We have a long week ahead still with a lot of interesting things that I'm sure will unfold. So I hope that you work through it well, and I hope that you enjoy this week. I really appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.